Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. We did a video recently where the SNP want to take control of the judiciary into the government, basically amalgamating the judiciary into the executive. This is a very dangerous precedent seen only in third world dictatorships. No other Western democracy would do such a thing, and indeed the pushback has been immense. All judges, every single judge, without exception, has said it must not happen. It removes safeguards and it politicises justice. Well, now one of the most senior law figures in the country, Roddy Dunlop, who is the Dean of the Faculty of Advocates, has said he too is on the side of angels on this one, and he says we must fight this every inch of the way and must not be allowed to happen. The executive must not ever control an independent judiciary, because the moment it does, the judiciary is not independent. It is merely a tool of the state, and therefore justice is not able to be done. We'll take a look at this article, see why he's so angry about it, and why every single person should be angry about this. To have an independent judiciary subsumed into government means that a government can do what it likes and make sure that it is never found guilty of breaking the law. Here goes. So the leading advocate claims the SNP's legal reforms might be used to control or influence lawyers. There's no might about it. We know the history of the SNP. They most definitely will control and influence lawyers. Roddy Dunlop, who is the Dean of the Faculty of Advocates, has urged Humza Yousaf to axe some of the new Scottish Government bill to regulate the legal profession due to concerns it would interfere in the sector. And there's Roddy Dunlop. They've called him QC. I believe his title is now KC. Little error there. One of Scotland's leading advocates has joined the growing chorus of criticism surrounding an SNP bill to regulate legal services in Scotland. Roddy Dunlop, who is Dean of the Faculty of Advocates, allayed fears that it could lead to the Scottish Government controlling or influencing lawyers in the country. This is undoubtedly what's happening, and of course you have the measures being put in place for trials of men who are alleged to have committed R against women, and they want to up the conviction rate. And so it could be that messages from on high will filter down from some minister saying, well, we need a lot more men convicted. The conviction rate on this is very low. The judge will be sitting there going, well, I don't think he's guilty. The evidence isn't there to say he's guilty. But because of the control and influence of ministers, if I don't hit my quota, if you will, I could be fired. So, yeah, sorry, mate, you're going to jail. You are guilty. I'll direct the jury to find you guilty, and away you go, whether you're guilty or not. That's one aspect of it. Guilt by quota, not guilt by evidence. Then, of course, you're going to have the cases where the government will be taken to court because it's introduced some new measure, some new policy. And people say, well, that can't possibly be legal. And let's say, for example, the low emissions zone in Glasgow, and somebody who is actually taking them to court. Well, that influence could extend to a little quiet word with the judge deciding, saying, we really don't want this one to become illegal. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. And so that influence is there and legitimately held. And what would normally be a correct decision will be turned around because the government don't like the direction of travel. And this is exactly in keeping with exactly the sort of behaviour that the SNP, of course, are completely up to. Anyway, the Regulation of Legal Services Scotland Bill has been subjected to condemnation from the legal profession, with some claiming it could make the country a dictatorship like Belarus. Concerns have been raised about the prospects of ministers being able to regulate the sector and give them powers to reprimand and punish lawyers. And this is where we find ourselves. This is a role currently undertaken by the Lord President, with the legislation suggesting that this job now be shared with the government, who will get a whole new range of powers. However, many of those involved in the sector have claimed that it would lead to interfering and damage the reputation of the profession worldwide. Now, Scotland does have, of course, a massive reputation in the areas of law. Scottish lawyers are very, very highly regarded. Scottish law is seen as being a very high, sets a very high bar for acceptance. Put it that way. It is, you know, like I say, it's very highly respected, a very professional organisation. And so to find itself suddenly not being there, suddenly now being simply an arm of government, doing the whim of its, you know, its political masters, destroys hundreds upon hundreds of years of that reputation almost overnight. Scottish legal profession becomes literally a joke around the world. Is that truly the legacy that the SNP want? Because that will be the legacy that the SNP get. Writing for the Scotsman, Mr Dunlop urged Humsey Yousaf to make changes to the bill which would calm concerns, including the powers for ministers to get involved in regulating lawyers. He said there are certain aspects which we believe pose a threat to the independence of the referral bar in Scotland and which accordingly we oppose in the strongest of terms. He said currently any amendments to regulatory decisions and the regulatory powers of the Faculty of Advocates fall under the auspices of the Lord President. The Lord President is independent from government and Parliament as well as from those he regulates. He is basically at arm's length. He is neither under the auspices of the government nor under the auspices of the legal profession over which he has power, and is therefore free from all interference, free from any decision nudging, if you will. His decision is final. It's based on a fair and equitable settlement, and he looks at things in the round, looking at both sides' points, and then deciding based on the merits of the law. And that, of course, is how it should be, and not on the merits of what is politically expedient to the government of the day. That is a dictatorship. He went on to say, he is the head of the Scottish Judiciary and holds the responsibility for regulating the legal professions in this country on behalf of Scotland's highest civil court, the Court of Session. However, certain sections contained in the Regulation of Legal Services Scotland Bill would, if implemented, see the government empowering itself to act as a co-regulator alongside the Lord President. This is clearly wrong. It removes powers. Let's go back. It removes powers from the current courts to regulate themselves. It removes powers from the Lord President to regulate them, and it puts the legal profession literally as a lapdog of the government of the day. They will do as they are bidden. They will do as they are told. They will find in the ways that the government want them to find. As I say, that means that the government can more or less do anything it wants, and it can never be found guilty. It will be putting itself above the law. And as I say, no other country, no other democratic country in the world allows this. Because every other country in the world that's a democracy understands the importance and the vitality, the absolute necessity for an independent, non-aligned judiciary, free from political interference and oversight, free to deliver justice, not to deliver political decision making made from some Whitehall Mandarin or some jaded minister on the twilight of his career who's hoping to go out, without ever having to face a day in prison, where most of them ought to be from time to time. Anyway, I shall round up there because it's a very important matter, and I do want you to tell me in the comments exactly what you think about this, because I think it's something it's of vital importance to every single person. Every single citizen has a dog in this fight, one way or another. So let me know your feelings in the comments. Anyway, I'll round off. I'll come up and we'll finish this video. Now, there are reasons why the three sort of pinnacles of power are kept separate and independent. You have the legislature, the executive, and of course the judiciary. The legislature makes the laws, the executive enforces the laws, and the judiciary make sure that those laws are both legal and that the punishments are commensurate, but also it enforces those laws in a legal framework and holds the other two in check. And that is the whole point. If you have all three of these amalgamated into a single monolithic structure, and you have the force of personality, the cult of personality, you could end up with a dictatorship, no less different than, say, Saddam Hussein or Gaddafi. And this could have happened. And imagine that all three, the legislature, the executive and the judiciary, were all controlled simply by the government. And then you had the cult of personality of, say, for example, Nicola Sturgeon, who definitely did have the cult of personality. She would effectively be judge, jury and executioner. What she said would go. The courts couldn't find against her. She would more or less do exactly what she wanted, and no one could do anything about it. And that is a dictatorship. Now, of course, you can't apply that to Hamza Yousaf. He doesn't have a personality, so there'll be no cult of personality. But down the line, maybe not the next one, but the one after that, but down the line there could be someone there who, like Nicola Sturgeon, could rise and have that power. And so it's vitally important that these three branches are all kept well away apart, all independent, all each keeping a check on the other two to stop that abuse. And that is why it is so important. And that's why this bill must be rejected. It must be failed. It must not get through. Every single one of you needs to help fight that. You write to your MPs, your MSPs, you write to the papers, you write to everyone. And this bill must fail. And I think ultimately it will. I think if they try to bring in the controls, I think that'll be another Section 35. But for heaven's sake, don't rely on Westminster. Make sure it fails in Scotland before it even gets to Westminster. And that way, the SNP can't create another division there. Anyway, I'll round off. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope this one is worthy of a subscription. I hope you're happy to hit that subscribe button, and it's very important you do. We are a political channel. YouTube, by definition, does not like political channels because they become problematic to it, and so the algorithm kind of buries us a little bit more, and so it's very hard to just generally find. But when you hit that subscription, we become bigger. The algorithm pushes us slightly further out, and it absolutely helps the channel no end. And also, please like the video. That also helps. So until next time, stay safe, stay well, don't break the law, don't break it, don't give them an excuse, and fight this bill. And thank you and goodbye.